to help protect Britain. Should we bring back national service? Would you do your bit and sign up? Former Royal Marine Commander Craig Ainsworth says we'd end up with unskilled soldiers. He'd rather it didn't happen. But former Apprentice star Ryan Mark Parsons said he'd love to do his bit. Craig, let's start with you because you've been in the Marines. You have been part of our armed services. Why do you think this is a bad idea?
Firstly, I think the country offers nothing to the people that be asking to go to war. I think that we should spend our time building the communities to build that national pride where people want to go to war. The government spent the last few years with massive pay cuts and funding to the military, so they've left in droves, which has left us in this situation now. And now they've come back to the working class and asking us to do our bit again. Don't get me wrong, if we had the situation where Nazis were knocking on the door at the English Channel again, absolutely everyone needs to do their bit. But right now, I think that we need to leave it for people to actually make the choice and serve their nation proudly and honourably.
I think he is.
Good morning, beautiful people. How are you doing? So I'm here at the Royal Free. I'm about to give a talk on mindset mastery, resilience and teamwork. The guys here do fantastic work. I'm working with Ali, just a renowned plastic surgeon who's doing wonders for the NHS, putting stuff together to make the workplace better, safer, and really putting into practice all of the stuff that supports the workforce to give us a better service here in the UK. Absolutely honoured to be a part of it. Stay tuned, lots more coming your way. My life going anywhere, and I thought if I can become a Royal Marine and be one of those guys, then I'll be the best version of myself. And that's what I set out to achieve.
32 weeks.
I tell you, it's the longest 32 weeks of my life.
How does that happen?
A little bit of luck, like every gift in this. But I was very obsessive before I left the Royal Marines and put a lot of due diligence into the companies and things I worked for. And like when I joined the Royal Marines and aimed for the best I could find there, I did the same in security. And I was very fortunate to procure that position. And I very quickly found myself surrounded by people like your Chris Hemsworths, your Tom Hollands. And once your face has been recognised around London, and then I started my own company, people recognise you as that level of security, so that's what you attract. And I found it snowballing, and I was very, very fortunate at the very beginning of my career, for sure.
Yeah, and lots of other very big names that we're not allowed to talk about.
A huge reason why I've sort of stepped in and started working on the projects I have to try and speak to the youth and quell such a situation. And I think it's a vicious cocktail of all of these things. I don't think anybody's story is exactly the same. But I've worked with a lot of these young kids, and they're not vicious people. They're not animals. We're not being plagued by murderous teens roaming our streets. These are lost children who are scared, and they're carrying knives. If you, as you mentioned a moment ago, the trauma for my own life that was caused when my friend was murdered at 17. Yeah. If you're 12, 11, 13, 14, it doesn't matter, and you're seeing or hearing about these young kids being murdered, you're going to carry a knife. Then if there's a violent confrontation, you're more likely to use that knife out of fear, not because you're barbaric, but because you're terrified that it might happen to you or your friends. And is it better to inflict pain on somebody else rather than you and yours suffer that same pain and suffering, your mother having to bury you? I think these are the issues that we really, really need to dive into, because, you know, it's all lovely and we always hear these wonderful smoothed over speeches that talk about how we're going to solve these issues, but there's never any substance. There's nobody in the trenches. There's nobody speaking to the children. There's nobody speaking to the parents. There's nobody listening to them.
I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. And if you don't know, I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Promise it's all good. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. And if you don't know, I'm blowing up.
From oneself and knowing who you are is the foundation to everything great.
So we did it. It wasn't easy, but it took about an hour and 10, 15 minutes, I think. But we did it.
Very safe and cushy lives,
Yeah,
actually.
absolutely. We're very much spoiled in the West, aren't we? But the one thing I'd say is I think that our youth would surprise us if it came to it. I know that people are always looking for an opportunity to prove themselves, especially in the world in which we live at the moment. And I think that we would, if the time came and we had our backs against the wall, there's no option but to step up and fight. It may have taken me slightly longer than I thought, but I found it.